breaking news that's coming in. According to Reuters, Indian state oil refiners have paused purchases of Russian crude oil over the past week. Sources have said that US President Donald Trump have warned against purchasing oil from Moscow, and that is the reason why this is happening. And remember, India, the world's third largest oil importer, is the biggest buyer of Russian crude oil. And according to Trump's latest tariff threat, there will be a penalty imposed on India for buying oil and energy from Russia, apart from a 25% tariff that was just announced yesterday. And in the latest now, according to source-based information, Reuters, the news agency, is reporting that Indian state oil refiners have paused purchases of Russian crude oil over the past week. We have Karthik Malhotra, my colleague, now joining us live from the newsroom with the latest. Karthik, this sounds, there's so much of interpretation that can be made. How is it possible that, when Trump announced a penalty yesterday, and now this information that's reaching us is telling us that Indian state refiners have already stopped buying Russian crude oil, which means that a lot went on behind the scenes even before Trump made that final announcement?
I'm sure a lot did go behind the scenes, Krishna, but a lot of it was also there in public glare. Remember at the time when the US and EU had signed their trade agreement. Soon after that, we had the first set of sanctions coming in from the European Union, and that is when Naira Energy, for example, one of the companies that has a 49% stake held by Rosneft, which is a Russian company, had been sanctioned, because I think for the last almost a week, 10 days now, the conversation has been on that there is pressure on India to stop purchasing its energy from Russia. And EU had in fact put these sanctions initially, and that was pretty much the initiation of this entire conversation, which eventually led to Donald Trump yesterday talking about penalizing India, among other countries, for buying oil as well as defense from Russia, defense equipment from Russia. So from what we are reading right now, and mind you, we don't have official confirmation from any of these state refiners at the moment, from what we are picking up from this Reuters report is that 4 Indian companies, all of them in the public sector undertaking space, have stopped purchasing Russian oil for the last 1 week, and these include Oil India, HPCL, BPCL, as well as Mangalore Refinery Petrochemical Limited. These 4 are state-owned entities, and as per the report, they have stopped purchasing Russian oil for the last 1 week. So it seems that these are closed door and perhaps some in the public glare conversations which have happened between US and EU, perhaps an indirect pressure from the US coming to countries like India, with EU being the sort of conduit in between for this pressure to come, because at the end of the day, the oil that India is producing from Russia is not all only for the domestic market. It is also oil which is purchased from Russia, refined here in India, and then exported back to countries within the EU as well as the US. And that was pretty much the tipping point for those sanctions imposed by EU last week on Naira Energy, among others. And what we are now hearing, of course, is what we just discussed, that 4 Indian refiners are now not purchasing Russian oil for the last 1 week. But again, just to put it on record, we don't have official confirmation either from the government of India or from any of these 4 refiners just as yet.